home of the Gales. Frankie two times.
Frankie Tota.
Johnny.
Johnny, we call him Johnny. You understand? You can call him Johnny. But I
What's the
call him
name of the show,
Johnny.
anyways, Frankie?
You know, known guys.
Round the way guys.
Round the way guys. Neighborhood guys.
Neighborhood guys.
Neighborhood guys. You know the kind of guys you see on the corner, the kind of guys. But hey, let me ask you a question. You got a cigarette? Like, I don't got a cigarette. Go to the ham bones around the store and go cop a Lucy.
You see something you like over here?
Speaking of blowing kisses, I don't even know. I was gonna go off of that one.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I
I'm
have
sure.
no idea.
If I know you the way I think I know you, Frankie.
You know, I was gonna go off it, but then all of a sudden, the little pitter patter, somebody's gonna run downstairs and say, "Get off the air. You're suspended for the rest of your life."
Pitter patter, chitter chatter.
And then just watch him go.
It's in a bladder.
So, thank you for listening to Neighborhood Guys. We're a little 15 minutes early, but you know what? Half of yous will listen, the other half of yous are still zoning off of them round. You understand
Still
what I'm
trying
trying
to
to
come
explain
back.
to you?
Still
Trying to come back. You understand? I'm still floating. I'm still floating. You're over here, you're back on the earth. I'm still flying like a Zeppelin. All right, so we'll start off with a little baseball.
Baseball.
Before we get into the actual talk of baseball, I get very angry, very, very angry when I watch a Yankee game and I see behind the batters, behind the catcher, behind the umpire, is Yankees BEISBOL.
Baseball?
It really is annoying because that's not. It's just stop catering. Just it's an American sport, made by Americans for Americans. Well, not for Americans anymore, but let's just try to keep some sort of American tradition here. I understand that it was built on
Immigrants.
I understand what this country was built on, but when you made those traditions from those different cultures to make our culture, can we just like keep that and not stray away from it and have to be like, well, we have to recognize this and we have to recognize that, because no other country could care less. No other country accepts or recognizes anything else. They recognize their own culture. So can we just have our own identity, or just we have to like constantly have everybody else tell us who we are?
Well, you know what I think it is, Frankie? I don't even necessarily know if it's as much of an identity thing. I think it's more.
I think it is.
I mean, I certainly see where you're coming from. What I think it actually stems from, though, is more about advertisement. And I think that at Yankee Stadium particularly, I think there's just a big market for it. You know, you're not going to really, believe it or not, you're not going to see what you just described, you know, the baseball in the background. You're not going to see that at many stadiums around the
No,
the
you're
league.
not. You just around
It's
the
Bronx.
ones that
It's the South Bronx. You know what I mean? It's somewhat to be expected. A lot of the Yankee fans in today's world are of Hispanic descent of one way or another. And just to further my point, Frankie, when Masahiro Tanaka made his debut at the Blue Jays Stadium, if you looked throughout the entire game when Masahiro Tanaka was actually pitching, the advertisements that were behind the catcher there were all in Japanese. Now, do you think that was there because there's tons and tons of Japanese people in the state?
Not, because
it's because the Japanese media was tuned in heavily, and they paid for that advertisement. Yeah, they paid for
guys
that.
pitching,
They paid for that advertisement spot. That's really what it comes down to. So it's probably, I think that there's actually an organization, like it's an organization.
I know what it. I know what it is, but it's pretty much. I know exactly where it's boiling down to. To me, it's just like.
It's a bit much. You're saying it's a bit much.
If I just won $250 million yesterday, and I was like, hey, listen, I want you guys to advertise feces. Can you put down www.imakefeces.com and have have Mr. Hanky from the South Park show have different fun splatters all over the back of that? Like, could we do that? Because I'm pretty sure that if I offered enough money, they would. And to me, it's just, what are you going to take more seriously? You take the fact that someone just dumps money in your pocket. So no problem, I'll put whatever advertisement you want up there. I know I'm going far-fetched by saying feces.
Comparing that to another language.
You know what I'm saying? Comparing that, yeah. But it's just like I could sit there and be like, okay, can we have something in just Italian written up there, just Italian, or just
Frankie,
German?
I'm sure if you threw the dough at them and there was the,
they would. It just would turn my stomach.
Yeah, it's not. I understand what you're saying. It's not necessarily. it's not necessarily necessary, and I
At
see
all.
I see where you're coming from with that, and especially in the case of Yankee Stadium, it's excessive because it's there all the time. It's not like it's every once in a
No,
while.
it's
It's
not
just
like once in a while. It's just like, oh wow, it's just why don't we just call the can't even want to, just can't.
yeah.
So moving on, Tanaka. Now, one thing I thought that was really funny, Johnny, is Johnny posts on Facebook. He goes, "Listen, you little hamsters and piglets." He goes, "You're gonna spell Tanaka time with 10 Ks."
And for anybody who didn't watch, that's because Tanaka struck out
10.
struck out 10, pitched 7 innings,
yeah.
And gave
Walked
up 3
one
earned
wa-
runs.
One walk.
One walk.
One walk.
So between 2 games now,
And a
in
home run.
total of 14 innings now, he has 1 walk,
2 home
and
runs.
4 earned. No, I'm sorry, 5 earned runs and 2.
And they were only from home runs.
yeah, only from home runs.
Only from home runs. So if you know how to get down and you know how to hit this guy, okay, you know, if you're an
I don't think it's
exceptional-
about knowing how to hit him. It's just if you make a bad pitch in Major League Baseball, you're gonna hit it out, especially if you throw it against a good hitter. And both those pitches that you're talking about, the pitch to Shope and the pitch to Melky Cabrera,
yeah.
both of those pitches were up higher than they were
And
supposed
the funny
to be.
part is someone tried to tell me, he strikes out a guy like Adam Jones, but then a guy like Shope turns around and hits a home run off of him. It's just
It's
like
just
we're
bad
talking
location.
about
Bad location.
not even that. It's just you're also talking about the Baltimore Orioles, and not like they're not like the
The Houston Astros.
yeah, they're not. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not like a team that you just laugh at the second you hear, or you look at that division, you're like, wow, it's a joke. It's just like the
AL East
Baltimore
is the best
yeah,
division
like
in baseball.
The
by far.
Orioles are in a division who compete with the Yanks, the Red Sox, and the Blue Jays,
and the
like,
Tampa Bay Rays.
and the Rays. Like really, guys, we're
all
gonna,
stud teams.
you know what I'm
actually.
saying? And like the Orioles are an offensive team. You know what I mean?
Every team in the AL East is an offensive team, and the thing is people hate on the Blue Jays and say like, oh, they're always in last place. If the Blue Jays were in another division, they make the playoffs
Dude,
every year.
That's what I'm saying.
Every year they'd make the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying. You know, it's like you don't win as many games as the Yankees does, or the Red Sox will, or you don't win as many games as the Orioles, because the Orioles were
Or the
holding their
Rays.
own. I mean, let's just be honest. Last year, the Orioles were in first for how long? I
Uh,
mean, even though it was early in the year, but still, how long were they in first
All right,
for?
even beside their standing, they still led the major leagues in home runs last year. So
That's
it's an
what I'm saying.
offensive
So-
ball club, regardless of how you
so-
slice it.
So if Tanaka gives up 1 home run to those guys, but strikes out 10, I'll take that.
Yeah, and
I'll take
especially
that.
if he can last, especially if he can strike out
7
those 10
innings.
through 7 innings.
And let's also not count. Let's also take into account that Tanaka threw 100 pitches yesterday. 71 were strikes.
yeah, so he's a strike thrower. He's a
So-
competitor. Honestly, Frankie, I called it going into the season. Remember we talked about it on the show. I said
I was
Tanaka
excited.
Yeah, he's big.
I was excited
He's
for this
big.
guy.
He's a huge
I
acquisition.
looked at him. I was like, "How's this Charlie gonna throw?" You know, the first thing I thought, "How's this Charlie gonna throw? Is there gonna be like going in the big cons with all the kind of helmets and leaves and palm trees, or is this guy to go in there and he's gonna flame them out?" And that's exactly what he did. He flamed them. He flamed out 10.
Flamethrower, flamethrower,
Flame trout.
great trout,
Great trout.
great trout,
Great trout.
great trout.
I remember the notes battle,
Oh,
right? I was
yeah.
supposed to be that. Great trout. Great trout.
Nobody has any idea what it is that we're talking about because we actually got denied at the Canadian border one time back in
Yeah.
on July 4th. I actually remember the date. It was July 3rd of 2011. And we rolled up there when we were still a little bit younger,
Yeah.
looking like delinquents, and they literally like looked at us and gave us the,
Nope.
you boys gonna have to turn around right about now.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we did after a 9-hour drive.
One of our friends just like, it's funny because we all look like hoodlums.
He was like, "What's good, man? Yeah, you know, we trying to come into Canada. You know what I'm saying?
we're trying to get this rap, you know what I'm saying? We're trying to get this rap battle going.
you
Like,
know,
no, guys, don't.
We're doing it for the culture. You know what I'm saying, baby?
You say we're here for the culture, you know what I'm saying? They were like, okay, no
We out
problem. You, my friend, have a DWI, so you can't come back here in the next 10 years. And the 3 of you guys just look shady. So we felt bad enough. We didn't leave.
Yeah, so they turned us around. They turned us all away, and we tried to come back the next day. And then
we
they
tried, and they,
we
almost,
tried to
they
sl-
threatened us
Yeah,
too.
they threatened to throw us all into jail, and then they actually said, "All right, DUI guy, you can't come. The rest of you can." And he was our ride, so it was like
We weren't
it's a
doing
bit of a
that.
hitchhike, and
not
you
gonna
know, like
leave him
Frankie said, we're not
behind.
going to leave him behind.
Nah, we did what the U.S. Army does. No man left behind.
Yeah,
No man left behind.
or
so-
or New York public schools too. No child left behind.
yeah.
So in other words, even if you're dumb as an ox
Yeah.
in New York public schools, you won't get left back
No.
anymore.
You
And
know,
that's
it's
why you have kids who graduate and or you have girls who have their master's degree, and I'll work with them,
yeah,
and they'll
that's
write the word
worst.
digits. They'll write the word digits on a board, DEGETS, and they have a master's in English. Double digits, not
Isn't that
digits.
great?
Digits.
Now, all I can think of at that time is
Baseball.
who. Oh my God! And besides, I see red. Besides seeing red,
I see red.
I see red. I see red. I see
red.
Besides,
We're making fun of the terrible acting in Walking Dead,
yeah,
by the way.
god awful. By the way, god awful. When I think of that, I'm like, who taught this girl? And how is she? If she can't spell a word like digits, how does she have a master's in English? You know what it was? I guarantee you, it was like a left-wing progressive in the class. It was like the professor, and he was like probably sitting there looking at how like, oh God, all right, let me just rephrase that. Looking at how illiterate that she definitely appears to be.
She was cute too, so that may have played into it.
No, of course
she
she
had
was.
She
Of
had a
course she
certain
was.
attractiveness to her. So in today's world, that's a female being attractive is a lot more important than how competent you may be, just in anything. So
Which I can certainly attest for, because especially in production, by the way, you'll have a girl who is extremely pretty who works at a certain position, and then you talk to her for 10 minutes and you're like, how do you have a job?
But this is even worse though, Frankie, because this is education. So this is like they're championing your looks over your actual intellect.
Which is
scary.
sad.
It's actually scary.
Scary too. So I guarantee he's looking at her and just being like, you know what? I just feel bad. Like, you could just see the culture. That you could just see that she is so engraved in her own culture,
So impoverished,
so disadvantaged.
I was getting into it with somebody on Facebook about this because my friend Eric, who's actually a teacher in a Bronx public school, was just talking about how, this quote by Michael J. Fox was saying, well, if kids aren't learning from the way you're teaching, then try teaching the way kids are learning. And this made my friend Eric angry because he was like, these like one-liners are so useless.
Aspenberg?
No.
Thank God.
Jones.
That kid makes no sense.
Eric, yeah, EQ. So he was saying, these one-liners are so annoying because it's like, why are we putting it on the teachers that kids have no desire to learn? And then of course somebody runs in right away of the same persuasion that you were saying, Frankie, and he says, well, 1 out of 5 kids in America are impoverished, so that is the education problem right there. And then I look at it and I'm thinking about my friend Jerusha, who spent years in India, in rural, impoverished India, and she recalled stories to me about how these poor kids, they said that the only thing that they wanted, if they could have all this money, if the resources were there, the only thing they wanted was a good school built so that they can actually learn. So why is it that impoverished kids in the United States of America couldn't care less about education, but impoverished kids around the world, they see it as a good thing? So what I'm trying to say is stop trying to blame everything on how much money somebody does or doesn't have. If you're not raised with the intention to actually educate yourself, you will remain ignorant for your entire life, and that's just what it is. Stop blaming their economic background.
You know what the best part is? You're racist for saying that.
Yeah, but you see, to me, I didn't even mention race. There is no mention of race.
No. You didn't. I'm just gonna tell you, you're racist for saying that.
That's true. Sorry about that, Obama. You're right. I guess that
You are absolutely racist for saying that. How dare you? How dare you say something that's so untrue?
Yeah.
Such an injustice. When I raise my son, he's gonna be.
Oh, that was bright.
When I raise my son, he will know of the injustices.
He will, and while you're at it, just make fun of as many Catholic parishes and churches as you can.
Yeah, at the same
make sure,
time.
because
That's the popular
educated.
thing.
That's what educated people do.
That's the
They're
popular thing
liberal,
now.
and you accept everything except for the stuff.
But
except
the
for
Catholic
the
religion.
Except for the stuff you don't like. So you accept everything because you're liberal, and that's what it's all about. It's about being open-minded. So you accept everything.
But once you don't
except
like
the stuff
something,
you don't like.
Yeah, but once you don't like something, you're allowed to be closed-minded. You're allowed to scream at the person
Slander them,
yeah,
accuse them,
tell them
soil
that,
their name,
tell them that they are the
them.
worst person ever. Tell them that they're close to the Nazi regime. Like I
You
Go-
carry the torch, Frankie.
Yeah,
You carry the torch, Frankie. I see Frankie run with it, light it
Always.
up fire, run down the
Always.
street like he was streaking, like he was
Always.
Will Ferrell, not Will Ferrell.
No, you know what I say? I grab that torch and I say, if somebody shoots me with an arrow in the leg, I'm crawling. You understand? If they take that leg out, I'm gonna just army crawl with my elbows. And if they take that out, I'm gonna roll my tongue down the street to make sure I get that torch rolling. Cause you're never gonna stop me. Never gonna stop me.
Well, you know what? We've talked your ear off for a couple of minutes. I think we'll probably take a music
Yeah.
break right about now, and we'll be back. We'll continue to talk about baseball and also go on angry
Baseball.
tirades about things that anger neighborhood guys, because around the neighborhood, all of that,
Around the neighborhood,
all of
you
that
gotta come
garbage
correct.
don't fly. It don't
Don't
fly.
fly in. You know what we say? When you're in the neighborhood, you better keep your P's and Q's to yourself before I slice your T's and cross your eyes. So, now I just soiled your brains, let me just hit you with a little bit of Janet Jackson.